Well, hello and welcome back to episode 30 of the Crystal Clarity Podcast. My name is Sarah Thomas and I am broadcasting again from Wadmalaw Island in South Carolina as I am visiting here, and I'm looking out over the water and listening to the birds, and I'm hearing the mud pop. And when the tide goes out, when the tide's only about 60 feet from us here in this little house, and when the tide goes out, you can hear the mud pop, and it sounds like there's music playing. And my cat, Fang, when he talks to the animal communicator, he says, "When can we go back to the place where the music plays? When can we go back to the place of the music?" And he is talking about this place because that sound of the mud popping. So maybe you'll be able to hear it in this episode. And today's episode, it's another episode really about spiritual healing and spiritual healing with stone medicine. And it's actually about garnet and rhodochrosite and the potentials of the combination of garnet and rhodochrosite for the miraculous power of your emotions to heal you, and to heal you in incredible and profound ways, and in ways that you've been waiting for. So I have some big things to say, and I think right around the middle of the episode is the meat of the episode about the power of our emotions to heal us. And then we're going to get into exactly how to work with these stones and who needs them. And I think this is an important episode for you to stay for if you're somebody who is dealing with an addiction or coming out of an addiction, or you're in a place where you're like, okay, I'm ready to feel more again. Or maybe you're coming out of a trauma or a time where your emotions have been really stagnated because it was just too much to feel, and you're ready to feel now again and get things moving again. And this is also for somebody who's been dealing with like a long-term deep illness, who realizes that the movement of emotion or trauma, who realize, and I meant physical illness by that, but I also do mean trauma, and we're going to talk about all of this. But if you feel like the emotional component is actually a part of how you're going to heal and the movement of your emotions again, this is an important episode for you too. So let's break into it. And I just want to say that, what we fear, if you're honest with yourself, you will admit that you fear death, because every self fears death. The self always fears death. So unless you're an incredibly enlightened individual and you no longer have craving or desire, and you're completely enlightened and no longer have thought moving through your mind, you probably still have a self and still identify with the self most of the time. And the self is terrified of death. And what we're so afraid of, the self is so afraid of, is, the self is afraid to go into nothingness and to go into the unknown and to go into that blackness. Um, it's the unknown, the unknown brings up fear. And but people will often say, I'm not scared of the death part. I'm not scared of the moment of slipping away. I'm scared of the pain and suffering that I might endure before I die. And you know what I think that's fair. And you know what I think people are really afraid of, though? Like what the self is really, really afraid of, too, that doesn't get talked about a lot, is that the emotions that we will feel as we lead towards death. The emotions, it's that scary often to think about what you're going to feel the moment you get a diagnosis, potentially, or what you're going to feel the moment the doctor tells you the treatments aren't working, or the overwhelming emotions that you're going to feel on that journey, the grief of the thought of leaving your family, or the anxiety, the constant anxiety of getting test results back, or whatever that is on that journey. I think it's the emotions that we fear. We fear our own emotions more than anything. And fear itself is the mother of all emotions. It's the most powerful. It is the one most, it has the most potential to knock us down. It's like standing in the water like Daniel's son in The Karate Kid, trying to do the crane move, and those waves keep coming. They're very powerful. Fear is very powerful. It's the mother of all emotion. And it's actually the greatest obstacle on the spiritual path, our fear. I see fear all the time get in the way of these tremendous opportunities for healing for people. And it's their fear of doing something new or going into the unknown, or the fear that they might lose control, that keeps them from doing it. So I think fear is the greatest obstacle on the spiritual path. And like, we're all, we're all in this emotional journey. It's like I am just as human as you. And my dog, Bodhi, he looks up at me and he's a Cancer. And here we are, it's July right now, and he's a Cancer. So we're in Cancer season, and he just had his birthday. And he's so emotional. His heart is so big. He feels everything. And sometimes I feel like he's looking up at me like, what is the point of all these feelings? I feel so much. What is the point of all this? They're intense, they're scary, they can be so overwhelming, you know? And sometimes we forget like the importance of the other side of feelings, the joy, the excitement, the way that we can wake up in the morning and feel excited to get out of bed, to feel joy, to feel happiness, like, and the movement of emotions, which is what we're going to talk about today with Garnet and Rhodochrosite. It's the movement of emotions. If we can allow ourselves to feel the scary ones, the fear and the grief and all that, then we get freed up to feel the good ones, to feel excited to get out of bed in the morning, to feel meaning, to feel inspiration, which is one of my favorite feelings in the world. It's the other side of grief, to feel that communion and inspiration that comes with connection, where grief is like the feelings that we feel when we feel some kind of separation or falling away. So, I want to talk today about the miraculous healing power of your emotions, and something that somebody said to me that like really probably changed my life. He's a spiritual kind of mentor of mine. His name is Doug. And we were talking recently, and before I go into that, I just want to say that Chinese medicine is so wonderful because it gives us the most brilliant, ancient, wisdom-filled understanding of what's going on with so many things. And one of them is emotions. And in Chinese medicine, we know that our emotions are stored in our blood. So is our memory. But our emotions are our blood. And what is moving and pumping the blood all around the body? It's the heart. So the heart governs all of our emotions. And when our emotions are suppressed or repressed, it's equivalent to the blood being stagnated and not moving. And think about I've been walking a lot out here and just seeing these bogs. And sometimes I'll see a bog that's like, if it's drought, you're not getting a lot of rain, you'll see a bog or like a body of water that's just really low and just really stagnant. And it's just pulled up, right? Nothing's moving. And in that stagnancy comes death, and the animals in there die, and it looks like toxic looking. And that feeling of the stagnancy that comes from deficiency is important to think about. Like the way that if we have deficient blood, we can also have stagnant blood, and blood is essentially water. Um, and water is memory, and blood holds our memory. But think about this, that your blood has to be moving, and you have to have enough of it to feel your emotions, to get them out of repression or suppression, or where they're in dormancy or where they're in latency. We have to have enough blood moving around the body. And that's where Garnet and Rhodochrosite come in, and all herbs and stones and other parts of nature that can move and tonify blood. So I hope that that is clear for you guys. It's the movement of blood and having enough blood that moves the emotions. And when we are repressed and suppressed in our emotions, our blood is like not moving. In fact, the the clinical diagnosis of trauma, where we have repressed and suppressed something because it's so hard and it's not integrated back into our full system, the clinical description of that is blood deficiency, blood stagnation, and the blood even being frozen. So the stagnancy or frozenness of blood. So frozen blood equals repressed and suppressed emotions and feelings. Moving and robust blood means we're crying when we need to cry. We're angry when we need to be angry. We're feeling joy when we see something joyful, okay? So it's all about the blood. And here's something absolutely fascinating too. There are certain diseases that we can get, physical diseases that go so deep into the body, so deep into latency, and so deep into dormancy, they just get stored there and they get stuck there. These would be something like Lyme disease. It's kind of like a chemical, or not a chemical, but like a toxin, a bacterial overload, and it can get pushed down to the deepest layer of the body where it just gets stuck. Something like heavy metal poisoning, like mercury poisoning, can get pushed down to the deepest layer of the body where it just kind of gets stuck. And there are many things, mold toxicity, anything that you can think of that's hard to heal is probably something that gets pushed down to that deepest layer and gets stuck there. Trauma is something, the reason why it's so hard to heal, or we just don't wake up one day and we're healed of trauma, is because it gets pushed down to that deepest layer. And things at that deepest layer, the question becomes, when we realize that they're down there and they're stuck and they're becoming chronic disease, the question is, how do we get them out? How do we get them moving? This is fascinating, is that one of the ways that we can get things out of that deep level and get them moving again and freed and liberated in movement and unstuck and unrepressed and no longer dormant and no longer in latency is by moving the emotions. Like, actually, an amazing cry can move the emotions so much that it will pick that up out of the deepest layer and finally get it out of that closet where it's been stored and get it into circulation again and moving again, which leads to freedom. And the you all know, just being human, it's like if something happens that's too hard, we'll stuff it down in the closet, and it gets stuck in the closet of who we are, which is a brilliant mechanism because it allows us to go through our days and live and function. And at the same time, it's stuck down in this closet. And when we have too many things stored in this closet of latency or dormancy, feelings, all of these things, it's like a closet in your basement that's just pushing over, and tennis balls are falling out of it, and skis and hockey sticks are falling out of it because there's too much in there. And that creates this ongoing leakage. And it's kind of like this subtle, everyday leakage. I'm going to tell you something what that is equivalent to, and I'm just kind of side noting here, but I just want to pull this all together, is anxiety is an ongoing leakage. Anxiety is like, we're always kind of having this anxiety. That is often that closet being stuffed with too much. So like little tennis balls falling out of the closet like every minute. A little scarf, a little hat, whatever we stuffed in there is falling out all the time. So that like kind of ongoing not gentle, kind of slow release because the closet is too full can be anxiety. And so a lot of people with anxiety, if they feel like they have ongoing anxiety, they know that it's like, yeah, because there's so much in there that I need to feel. I have a lot of repressed trauma, a lot of repressed emotion. It's too overwhelming. It's been too much. This makes sense to them. You're like, so the anxiety is just this like this little bit of leakage that's coming out about it all the time. So we ask ourselves, how do we clean out this closet, and a lot of times, this is what's amazing, is that we can move our blood enough to clean out that closet, to get diseases out of dormancy, to get diseases out of latency, to get repressed and suppressed emotions moving again. We can actually move the blood to do that. And all of you guys that know anything about Garnet are feeling the Garnet vibes right now and the Rhodochrosite vibes, because this is what they have the power to do, is to move the blood that much that you can finally move Lyme disease out, or you can finally move that heavy metal poisoning, or you can finally see that repressed memory that has been in the unconscious or stored or suppressed, that comes up into our consciousness, and then it can move again. Moving the blood, emoting, right, can do this. That's the miraculous healing power of emotion. And so think about moving the blood. So what makes you cry? Something that makes us cry is sound. Okay, sound is very moving for us, and especially like organized sound, like music. Music can really make us cry, right? If you put on the right song, it's like all the tears start moving. It's such an incredible technology for I work with music all the time in healing, and it's very important to me what songs I play and things, because I want to move the blood. But any of you who have ever cried because you felt like heard the right song, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's just the movement of the blood, and the heart governs all of this. And the music makes the heart be present for just a second. Enough. Sound can create presence. All of our senses do. And it makes the heart be present enough to go, okay, I can feel this emotion. Your heart is the master of emotion. It's the master of emotional healing. It's the master of the movement of emotion. And its secret power is presence. It is always presence that will heal anything. Presence can heal anything in the past. It can heal anything in the future. And the thing is just, how do we get present? Because when we get present with any one of these emotions, it'll move up. So presence is the power. And we get scared to be present and move. And I'm so thankful for the medicines that have allowed me to be present enough to cry it out, to feel it all, to get past the traumas in my own life. So presence, the heart, these are the things that we need, and we need to move the blood. So now I want to tell you something that's just absolutely fascinating. Okay, this meant so much to me when Doug said it in this way. So I'm going to go even deeper now. I want to go to like the spirit and the soul level. So deep down in the soul, you know that we know all of our karmic situations. It's just unconscious. And we know all of our ancestral situations. It's just unconscious until it's not. We know all of our programs, all of our beliefs. We know all the traumas that we've been through in all lifetimes, timelines, and realities. We know all of the collective feelings, the collective traumas, what's happening in the collective unconscious. We have all of these big things going on in our unconscious that we know, but we don't know until we're conscious of it, right? They kind of remain in the unconscious until they move up. What's happening right now in human awakening as we head into this incredibly crucial time is that we're purifying. Everything that's inside of us in the unconscious is moving up and out. And what a journey, man. Like, what a messy, crazy human experience this is. It's like all of this stuff is moving out. Because to go into a new age, it's like we're all getting this opportunity to feel all these things. They've been in the collective, they've been in our ancestry, they've been in our karmas. It's like, woo, we feel it all, and it's purifying now. So here's what happens to us is that one of these things will come up into our consciousness. Maybe we have a healing treatment. Maybe we have a dream. Maybe, we go into a ceremony or we go into a meditation. We still ourselves enough that we're present enough that one of these things are able to come up. Maybe it happens like seemingly miraculously, but it could be a repressed memory comes up, or a realization of something that's happened in our ancestry that we're carrying, or a realization of something from our parents that we're carrying, or a realization of a trauma from a time before this time, or from another body or life. Or I've had incredible realizations about what I'm carrying for the collective on all levels. Now, when we have a realization about one of these things, it's huge for us. It's big. It's like, oh my God, I saw that I am carrying my dad's, I'm trying to say an example. I saw that I'm carrying my dad's like karma of gambling. And it's also always multidimensional. It's always like a big thing. That really was reductive what I said, but I think when we see these big things, and I know that you know one from your life even recently because so much is going on. When we see these big things, our eyes pop open as wide as plates, and we go, okay, the immediate thing that happens is our mind goes into story, and our mind says, what am I going to do about it? How do I fix it? What do I do? And the mind is immediately like, okay, how do I pray? Where do I go? What ancient site do I have to go to? What prayer bundle do I have to make? What grid am I going to make? What healer do I need to go to? What package do I need to sign up for? What ceremony do I need to do? What do I do next? What tree do I stand at in my yard? Because it's such big stuff. And we go into story about what we need to do. That is just the nature of the mind. But what happens is we get stuck in that thicket of story. And what we need to do in that moment, and all we need to do in that moment, is feel. Because all of it is being delivered to us as feeling. We can move through all of it by feeling. Just to feel what that brings up in us. That's what moves it. And it moves the blood so much. It moves us so much if we can feel and cry and anger and move that and grieve. And whatever needs to come out of it, the anger, the scream, if you can be present with the fear, God, it moves up the body. You can feel it almost coming out of your kidneys. If we can feel in that moment, that is all we have to do. Just feel it, cry it, feel it. And that is how we stop the cycle, heal the blood that moves forwards and backwards through time. That is how we integrate the trauma. All we have to do is feel in that moment. And we get lost there every time. We get lost and say, but what do I have to do? Oh my God. And we go into more story. And maybe I need to talk about this. Maybe I need to do a podcast about this, right? The mind just does that. So become conscious of the mind when these big things come up and realize that all you have to do is feel. And the blood is going to move everything from that deep, deep layer that we call the jing, which is the same word phonetically for crystal. That deep layer is called the jing, and it's going to move all of that. The karma, the ancestry, the programming, the samskaras, the limiting beliefs, the perceptions, the programs we've had for a long, long time. I just remembered a trauma that my ancestors went through on my mother's side that I had never seen before. It was an abduction, and I won't say more about it, but I saw it, and I'm not sure who had it, but my whole body's carrying that. My whole body remembers that. It's one of the things like in my closet until it's not, until I see it. So instead of me going like, well, now I have to go to this healer and say this, or go get a reading from a psychic or something, it's just to feel that. Can I be present and just feel it and let all of that fear run through my body, to cry it out? And it's amazing because, many traditions, ancient traditions, say that if you actually grieve and you actually cry, that you move a soul that is passed on to heaven, that you move them to the light, that you can move them to the highest realms of heaven so they're not stuck in some in-between place. That moving your emotions, just grieving, actually moves the soul in multiple cultures. I mean, so you can see how when we let our blood move, we're not only affecting our deepest layers of who we are, we're affecting everything. All of our ancestors, all of those to come, the collective. That's how powerful it is to feel. That's how powerful it is to feel. Amazing. So, okay, so the next time that you go through something that's like, holy shit, I'm having this revelation, this is where this comes from in me, give yourself the time to feel. Give yourself the space to feel and see if you can be present to feel. And, those of you too who, like, a commercial can come on about fabric softener and you see like a little child like playing with a teddy bear and you start to cry, or like you're like, I can't hold back the tears, I'm crying at every commercial, or I'm crying at the strangest things. Like you feel so sensitive, like tears are right there all the time. That can be, it not always is, but it very much can be that closet inside you is full and the tennis balls are falling out. There's a lot in there to feel. So here we go, segue into these stones. What stones help us do this? Garnet is forever going to be the biggest stone to move blood and to tonify blood or build blood. So think of that stagnant bog. That stagnant bog is now you're filling it with fresh water. It's filling up with fresh water. It's moving. That's emoting. That's emotion. So garnet builds the blood and moves the blood. So, if you use it as an herb, right? Like that's exactly how we work with these things with stones. It's like almost like we're using it as an herb. It builds the blood and moves the blood. And I'm not saying you could crush it up. You don't have to crush it up and ingest it, but just understand the frequency that it is. Everything's energy, frequency, and vibration. Because it's red and it has so much iron in it, it's going to be moving the blood. It's the same iron on the periodic table in garnet is the same iron inside your blood. So it builds and moves blood. You can work with it vibrationally. And I want to add in rhodochrosite to this because rhodochrosite has this spicy taste. And stones also have tastes like herbs. And the spicy taste is dilating and it's circulating. So it opens the heart, it opens the eyes, it makes the pupils get big, and it circulates things. So think if you eat too much wasabi, like if you're eating sushi and you get too much wasabi in, you go like, oh, and then your nose starts running because everything's now moving and opening. So spicy stones move and open. So what I'm saying here is that if you add the rhodochrosite, you're also getting this movement. You're getting this movement of blood. Think about putting garnet and rhodochrosite together in a necklace, in a bracelet, carrying them in a medicine bundle to say, I want to be feeling through this. I want to be able to just feel through this. I want to remember to feel this and become conscious of like that all the stories that happen is normal. The mind is going to set off like kicking a beehive, a million stories when I have one of these big revelations. But I want to remember the feeling. I want to be able to cry. I want to be able to, it's like allowing yourself to let your emotional body not like sit smashed in the corner of ballet practice, but actually get up and dance with all the kids in ballet practice. You know, that's kind of garnet and rhodochrosite on the level of the blood. And if you're coming off of a medication or a some drug or addiction thing or anything that was like kind of keeping all these emotions at bay, this is a great combination to get your feelings moving again, you know, and feel like you can program it to say like, let this be safe. Let me feel safe in this. Let me feel gentle in this. Like that, this can all start moving, but it doesn't have to be so overwhelming or scary. In fact, if you add mica to this combination or quartz, you're kind of regulating it and letting it come out layer by layer in a way that's going to feel like doable for you. Garnet, rhodochrosite, you know, this is also why echinacea, I always talk about the connection between echinacea and garnet, and echinacea is such a Cancer, July feeling kind of energy too, because it's all in bloom around us right now. It has like this red colors on it, but echinacea builds the blood, so it tonifies the blood, it moves the blood, and it purifies the blood or clears toxins. So the Cherokee people in the indigenous people of North America and this whole area down here often used echinacea to purify the blood, and then they also used garnet to move the blood and all these actions of the blood. And I think about, you know, an ancient formula of pairing these together for the movement of emotion to set ourselves free from some of these deeper physical things. They're always going to be really good in connection with ancestry, especially direct family ancestry, like what we get from our mother and father, because that's our bloodlines. And to just keep everything circulating and moving and let yourself feel. One of the things that is hard, I think, about how popular cannabis has become, and everybody's just eating a gummy every day and smoking all the time and everything, it's just become very, I don't know, it's just become kind of like very normal for people to be high all the time. And that's hard because what that's doing is just suppressing and repressing emotions more because it it numbs us out and it kind of slows the blood and it disassociates us a little bit. So it's like we're moved out of our body a little bit. So the power of presence in the heart to feel the emotions and keep the emotions moving gets dampened. And so I think it is not great to be high all the time unless you want to stay kind of frozen or repressed or suppressed. But it's okay if you're doing that because we're always doing the best that we can. I mean, we're always doing the best that we can with the emotions that we're feeling, with what we feel like is inside there. But, you know, and obviously we keep things in repression and suppression, sometimes because we're not ready, we don't have the right support. But when it is time for you to feel all the stuff again and get liberated, oh God, it's such a profound level at the level of the Jing. Healing things, moving things that you've been feeling for potentially lifetimes, ridding your body of collective fear you might be holding. You know, when you are like, I want to move this stuff, it's time for me to feel and cry. It's time for me to get, you know, get all this stuff moving in my body. Garnet and rhodochrosite is an excellent combination because you're building and moving the blood, and then rhodochrosite is also building and moving the blood. And you might have already guessed this, but it's as a practitioner, if you're helping someone else heal, the application of these stones can really help them cry. And so you can put these stones on the chest, over the heart, while you play a really moving song. You can put them up by the notch of the throat, CV22, to help them cry and emote on your table and just get things moving. And another just point I want to say real quick, and then I'll sign off, is spleen 10. People don't realize that, because it's not widely taught, that spleen 10 has the imagery of the Divine Mother. Spleen 10 is on the leg. It's the magic point for blood. It moves blood, it builds blood, it tonifies blood, it purifies blood, anything that you want to do with blood. And it has this image of the Divine Mother, like holding us, like the mother of all things in our body in that place. So there's a support element to it and a grace element to it. So that's another thing that you could bring your garnet and rhodochrosite to. Wow. So I'm right here with you. There's been a lot to feel, and the thing is, it's going to continue. This great purification, I think, will be going on well into 2026 for us, having this opportunity to liberate, not only ourselves, but our families, our ancestors, future generations, the collective, the smaller collectives we're a part of. And feeling is the secret to it. It's not all the stories that we go into and all the ways the mind wants to fix it and transform it. It's feeling is kind of the key to transformation here. And remember that presence is the power of the heart that helps us feel. So with much love, I will see you in the next episode. Take care.